Hello, everybody. My name is Samantha Francis, FemmePOWER educator and no-nonsense mentor. Welcome, 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 welcome for another conversation we are going to have today. And this week, this conversation was actually inspired by something I'd read online. In fact, it was a subject matter I'd been reading up about online, but it was several things I'd come across that made me just think, oh, I've got to speak about this. Right. So let me get straight into it. So if you indulge in self-development, if you've worked in self-development, somewhere across the line, especially if you've worked on self-concept, relationships, how to have conscious relationships, meet your soulmate, all the things, you will have come across a concept of masculine and feminine energy. So first of all, I want to just give a brief overview as to what masculine and feminine energy is. Number one, it's got absolutely nothing to do with gender. We all have aspects within us that fall in line with feminine energy and masculine energy. The easiest way I can explain this to you without going off on a tangent is your feminine energy is the aspect, the part of you that is receiving. If you think about our genitals, as women, we receive the masculine, right? So we receive. Now, what does that mean exactly? So the feminine energy is about stillness, flowing, creativity, pleasure, fun, relaxation, and just receiving, being. Okay, now that doesn't mean that the feminine has no action, because there are feminine actions as well. They're just not like masculine actions, okay? So that is the feminine aspect in all of us, including men. Men have this as well. But we also have a masculine aspect to us. Now, the masculine side of us, you will find that is the part of you that is very solution-based, very logical, very action, very go, 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 go energy. And it's about strong movement, penetrating movement, making things happen. And a lot of the time as women, we get stuck in one or the other. We don't necessarily have a union of the two. And this is where you will find a lot of women in corporate jobs and the workspace feeling very burnt out, struggling with things like adrenal fatigue, just general exhaustion, low mood, just they're burnt out because they've been primarily in masculine energy, go, 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 go. We're not built for that because we are women. So that is an example of the feminine and the masculine aspects within all of us. And actually, just to make it really clear, we need both. For example, in business, I would never, and this is just my personal opinion and experience, I would never tell someone you need to be completely in your feminine in business. The masculine creates structure. Masculine energy is the container, is the foundation, is the structure that you need to have a healthy business. So that could include things like automations, tech, paperwork, admin, accounting, all of those things that you need in a business. And the feminine is more of the displaying, the creativity, the showing up like I'm doing right now. So it's actually really, really in our best interest to be able to utilize both, but also know how to turn each of them on and off as well. So for example, if I'm at work all day, I'm with clients all day, when I go home to my partner, my masculine, which would be predominantly showing up, turns off. I allow myself to go into feminine, into receiving mode, to allow my masculine, my partner, to feed me. Innocent. It may feed me literally, with nice dinner, but in the sense of provide for me. So masculine energy is about provision, protection. Feminine energy, receiving, pleasure, feeling feeling. This is something I work a lot with my clients on. It's like feel. As women, over generations, we've forgotten how to feel because things have happened in life. Things have traveled down the generational line and we've disconnected. So I'm not going to go off on a tangent on that, but I want to bring it back to the main thing here as to why I had to have this conversation, because I actually, I read a lot of posts and a lot of comments on certain posts, and I actually laughed, not at the people, but at the disbelief and actually the remembering that I was one of those people that said these things many moons ago. So what am I talking about? We know about masculine and feminine, right? Well, we have a basic overview of it. So the posts that I'm referring to are the posts that would be essentially saying, women, if you want your man to please you, if you want him to serve you, then you have to stop being controlling. You have to place your boundaries, your values, your needs out there and let him know and communicate that. Now, for me, reading this as an expert in this field, that sounded pretty much on point. I say exactly the same thing. I teach women these foundational steps so that they can have a healthy, happy relationship. But a lot of the people in the comments, it's women, and this is no disrespect to any of them, because like I said, I was coming out with these statements before as well. Like, no, my partner's my equal, he should, he needs to go and look up how to be a man on Google. I'm not here to train anyone or to, teach anyone how to be a man and all the things. And there was almost like this kind of eruption of no, it was an eruption of anger. No, why do I have to do this? This is not my responsibility. In fact, one of the comments actually said, you should go on Google. It's not my job. He can go on Google and he can figure out how to be a man. Now, actually, I will say, I don't disagree with those points. It made me giggle a little bit because, like I said, it sounded a lot like me many years ago. But I don't actually disagree with them, because actually our inner work, our self-development is our responsibility. It's not my responsibility to go and tell my partner how to be a man. His emotional intelligence, his self-development, that's his responsibility. And guess what's mine? The same thing. My self-development, my emotional intelligence is my responsibility. I can't put that on him, and that would be unfair either way. But what I do want to say is this. Your partner can go on Google and he can look up the best resources, the best books, the best mentors, teaching him how to be the man that he desires to show up as. We're not going to go into alpha males, beta males, and all of those things today, because that's not the point of this conversation. And I will go off on a tangent with it. But, he can do that, just like we can do that as women, right? And a lot of us are doing that. But what he cannot Google is how to please you. No matter what he tries, no matter how many women he's been with, none of them will be like you. Google will not be able to teach him or tell him how to please you. They can give him the steps to hold a conversation, right? But a conversation has to involve two people. And I'm going to say this out because I'm no nonsense. I'm going to tell it how it is. It's a little bit ignorant to think that our partners should just know, because they don't. And actually, if we're really honest with ourselves, we don't just know either. We don't. And I'll tell you as a fact, in over a decade and a half of working with women, women don't know. I'll tell you why. Do you know how many women I've spoken to that will come to me and say, he's gone silent. He's gone silent. I haven't heard from him in a day. I don't know what's going on. I feel this weird vibe. You know, all the things, all the anxiety comes up, all the insecurities come up because they don't know. They don't know what's in the guy's head. And so if we don't know, how can we expect our partners to know? Ladies, I'm telling you now, it is so empowering to hold a conversation from your heart with your partner. To have the conversations that sound like, what's important to you in a relationship? You know, how can I support you if you are feeling down? What do you need from me if you're unwell? These questions create intimacy because you're getting to know that person. And when you get to know that person, then you're much better equipped to meet their needs. And the same goes for your partner. We can't expect our partners to just know. It absolves us of all responsibility for our own happiness. Your responsibility is your own happiness. And that, unfortunately, for some of you, will also include having to sit down and hold conversations and saying things like, you know something, I don't like this. How many of you have been afraid to say, I don't like this, or this makes me feel uncomfortable, or, you know, it hurts me when you do this, or it hurts me when this happens, or a bigger one, which I personally struggled with so much, like it literally made me feel like throwing up, actually the thought of me saying it, because it felt so cheesy and so corny. I feel. Just sit with that for a minute. How often do you actually sit with your partner or anyone, in fact, and say, this is how I feel? It's so much easier to show up from a wounded state and go, you did this and you don't know this, and how come you don't know this by now, and all the things. And I'm saying, as a woman, we are complicated. Okay, men are very simple. We are complicated. You know why? Because we are cyclical. Let's look at the monthly situations that we have, our cycles. I know for a fact, like for me personally, 1 week I am down and out, not necessarily in mood, but in energy. The next week I'm bouncing off the walls. 1 week I want cornflakes for my breakfast. The next week I can't stand it. It's confusing, even for me sometimes, right? So you have to understand it's also going to be confusing for your partner or someone trying to get to know you. And this is why it's so important to hold these conversations. When I met my partner, I was straight to the point with it in terms of holding these conversations and making them really fun as well. Like just to let you know that these conversations that feel quite deep, they don't need to be so serious as well. They can be fun. You know, you can get these little card games where you get to know each other better, you know, all the things, you know. But I made sure that I knew that I know myself enough to know that I can be a bit confusing. And so I needed him to know that too. And he was okay with that. He was okay with that. Now, if I go back to over 15 years ago, would I have been so confident to show up and say, look, this is me. This is me. These are my needs. This is what I do. This is who I am. No, I wouldn't. I was a shapeshifter. Let me know if you resonate with this. I changed shape. I changed identity. I changed everything to fit into the mold of what my ex-partners wanted me to be, or what I thought they wanted me to be. It didn't work, obviously. And it was incredibly disempowering because I completely disconnected from who I was. I didn't know myself at all. And that's why I was able to shapeshift. But we've got to learn to hold these conversations, because it's not our partner's job to make us happy. Your partner, I can tell you now, he loves you, he wants to be with you, and he wants to make you happy. But if he feels that he is hitting a brick wall all the time, if he feels that he's getting everything wrong and he's being reprimanded for it, what more can he do? What more can he do? So my message today is don't block your happiness. One small, potentially uncomfortable moment, uncomfortable conversation can lead to years and years of happiness. And I know that everyone watching this in a relationship or looking for a relationship wants that. You know, I grew up hearing women say, oh, he should just know. He should know. Giving their partners a silent treatment. That's abusive. And also, I'll say this, it's not just abusive to your partner, it's abusive to yourself. So let's change generational patterns. Let's empower ourselves with being able to communicate our needs and standing in our power with it. You know, I ask so many women all the time, what are your needs? Oh, I don't know. I don't know what they are. You need to know, because if you don't know what your needs are, your partner won't either. Then what happens? Needs are not being met. The blame game starts. And it starts going down a direction that actually can feel quite unhealthy. It is healthy to talk about what it is you want, what your desires are, what your needs are, what your non-negotiables are. It is healthy to have boundaries. If your partner is doing something that you do not like, that is crossing your boundaries, it's your responsibility to let them know that. You cannot just assume that they will know, because everyone has different boundaries. What disrespect means for me could mean something completely different for every single person watching this video. It's subjective. So how is anyone going to know? And again, we don't need to hold these conversations a really aggressive, you know, masculine, forthright way. We can sit down and speak from our hearts. And it doesn't have to feel cheesy. If that's just not your thing, it can be softened. And that is not so that your partner will fall in love with you. That is so that your partner can hear you, your partner can empathize and understand with you, and so your partner can feel you. And that is so important when we have a relationship, to allow ourselves to have just a little bit of vulnerability, because that creates connection, that creates intimacy. And if vulnerability scares you, if having these conversations scare you, then there is an issue that needs to be resolved, because it is blocking you from having what you want. Relationships, I'm going to say it whether you like it or not, you're going to have to allow yourself to be communicative and vulnerable. And if those two things you're struggling with, then you need some support with that. And it may not be through me, maybe somebody else, and that's okay. I just want to see you all happy, because I know you can have it. And I also know what happens when you hold everything in, you don't speak up. You know how many women I work with energy healing, body scanning, that have issues with their throat chakra, their throat energy center. It's usually 99% of the time blocked. It's usually the throat and the heart. And that is because women have been conditioned to not speak up. But when we don't speak up, when we're fearful of speaking up, it's because often we've been taught that when we do, there's a consequence. And it feels dangerous. but it doesn't have to be that way. So take small steps. Take small steps. I'm not saying to make your whole nervous system dysregulated over a conversation, but allow yourself the confidence to know that you are able to speak your truth. And if the situation were to be that you spoke your truth and your partner didn't align with that, and for whatever reason the relationship comes to an end, I need you to remember that there is somebody else out there that is much more compatible for you. If you work with me, you will know I don't deal with twin flames, soulmates, all those things. I work from a standpoint of compatibility. Many people are shocked by that, considering that I work very much with the holistic, spiritual, psychic field of work. But the truth is, soulmate or not, you have to be compatible. I see a lot of clients, I've had a lot of clients that have come to me and said, oh, but I was told he was my soulmate, and I thought this, and when we actually use my method to really look at everything and see if there was actually any compatibility there, there's usually none. There's usually a fixation on one thing and an ignoring of all the other things that indicate there's no compatibility. So I never want any of my clients to feel fearful for speaking their truth and thinking that there could be a loss. Be aware that there could be, yes, but also it opens the doors for things that you really do want, and it creates that space for things that are much more aligned for you. So to summarize this potentially long-winded conversation, stop assuming. Stop assuming that people will just know. We are all coming from different backgrounds, from different inner lands, from different experiences. Empower yourself with speaking up, speaking about your wants, speaking about what you need. It is not anyone's job or responsibility to dig away and pull away at you all the time. It boosts your confidence when you speak up. It boosts your self-worth. It makes you feel so much more in control of the connection that you are participating in. And that's it. Once we have communication, there's a strong opportunity, an invitation for connection. Once we have connection, that is what builds intimacy. And once you have intimacy and compatibility, you've got a beautiful relationship. So I hope that helps. And I hope that gives some insight. And if you are one of these ladies that are like, you know, that has been going around and saying, you know, well, he should know and all the things, like, there's no shade on you. But I'm here to expand you. I'm here to expand you so that you can live a life that you love. And I promise you, if you take the guidance from this video today and all of my others, you will have the building blocks to actually get there. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation today. May have gone a little bit over time, but that's all good. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know, get in contact with me. I love questions and I love supporting women in the best way that I can. Feel free to have an exploration of my website as well. It is www.samanthafrancisfemmepoweryourlife.co.uk, and I will speak to you all very, very soon. Bye-bye.